Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Where do we start, James?
We start with the average was far more than what you thought it was.
Well, yeah, I don't know why when I was looking on my phone, it was giving me, the app was giving me the old average pre-yesterday. The mobile site was doing all right, because when I went back to the mobile site and refreshed it, it showed 50, but the app was being a bit funny.
Yeah, average for the week 50. So what you on with a game to go?
I am on my FPL seasons done and dusted.
Oh, don't be like that.
No, but be realistic here. I've got.
You would never win in a stress ball anyway, mate.
I've got 46 points this week so far, which is bad. Although going through the weekend, I felt like I was doing all right. It's a weird one. It's deceptively. I had players picking me up returns here, there, and everywhere. And I've ended up on 46 points, and I've had a rank drop to 1.2 million. And the fact that everybody's got such similar teams now means that it's just brutal to keep climbing back up. So for me now, if I can finish inside the top 500,000, I'll be happy with it. But
you've still got all chips left.
No, I don't have my bench boost, do I?
Did you use that? When did you use that?
Yeah. We're the same week that we all used it. I got like 90 odd points.
Oh, grim.
35. Yeah, exactly. So I've got my second wild card. I've got my triple captain, and I've got my free hit. But yeah, I think getting up into the top 500,000 is where it's at. You see, it started off just looking at the games. Obviously, I don't have any Villa coverage, and there's quite a lot of people with Martinez. I didn't have any Burnley, Brighton, Newcastle, or Southampton coverage. So none of the early games were necessarily relevant to me. Went into Fulham-West Ham with triple West Ham. Sufal returned, but Antonio is captain, which it felt like quite a lot of the Twitter community didn't pay off.
So and then fucking listen to you saying on Friday that you weren't tired.
Yeah, I was ready to TC him, but I mean, we talk about the game. It was a difficult game, and then obviously the red card for Suj at the end. I have rarely seen so much unanimous hatred against or a decision in a while.
Oh, it's bad.
It was. I think it was. Someone did put a tweet out that it took Mike Dean to bring Twitter to unity, bring us all together on something, because it's so divided. And then obviously Manchester United, I own Bruno and Rashford. It was right, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So I did okay out of that game in terms of the three players that I own all returned. So I can't really argue with that. No Spurs coverage. Where did Harry Kane come from all of a sudden? No Justin in my squad. Quite a lot of people that I know have him. I benched Phil Foden.
Oh, so Jesus.
Yeah, that's not... The thing is, I benched Foden over Calvert-Lewin. It was one or the other. So the net points total was only 4. It's not exactly huge. Obviously, I did bench Phil Foden. And so, yeah, it feels like I gambled on the double City defence.
Can I ask the one question that all the listeners want to know at the moment? Who else was on your bench?
Areola, Lowton, and Dallas. Dallas obviously hasn't played. And
Dallas
Patrick
tonight.
Patrick Bamford still to play as well. So, like, the game week's not done. Bamford scored 16 goals today. I might be all right.
He's very highly owned. You won't get big jumps out of Patrick Bamford.
No, exactly. So, yeah, gambling on the double City defence was a bit unfortunate. And West Ham had a very tough game at Fulham. Very tough game. So that's where it kind of fell apart. Yet it feels like I picked up returns here, there, and everywhere. 5-6 players returned. So brutal game week, and just sums up the season where it's hard to see how to get the gains now.
I got my fingers crossed for you that Leeds don't keep a clean sheet tonight, because the patrons will know as well the arguments we had about whether to stick Dallas in the differential team or not.
Yeah,
you've left him out of your main team. Yeah. I mean, at least you got the Sufal points. So again, a little bit like the Foden versus Calvert-Lewin, you're probably not going to feel you're that bothered by it.
No, I'm not.
Gets a big haul.
Benching Foden, I'm very calm about, because I would have benched Calvert-Lewin, and that's 4 points in it. And the debate I had was Gundogan or Foden, Foden's just gone and outscored Gundogan. So it makes the decision to pick Foden the right decision. It makes the decision to bench him the wrong decision, but at least I got half the process right. You know what I mean? So it just feels like a very brutal situation to be in. And I'm just thinking about how to spice up the rest of my FPL season. There are, 16 game weeks, 15 game weeks remaining. I feel like I might make myself take a hit every week. 15 hits between now and the end of the season.
Oh, you're on tilt. Getting aggressive when you're on tilt is not good.
No, but I've got to spice up my season somehow, right? Because otherwise I'm just going to keep treading water.
I'm looking out the window. He's bucketing it with snow. It is freezing cold. Why don't you go out, get that sign, what we suggested, hold it above your head, walk through the middle of the road. I'm shit at fantasy. And that will spice up your life.
Yeah, I'm better than 5.5 million people, so could be worse. How was your week? What did you get?
I'm on 57 also. Have Bamford still to go tonight. My week verged on complete car crash and I've escaped, really. It's a little bit like you. Nothing in the first 3 games of the weekend. My FPL weekend didn't kick off till Fulham-West Ham. And as you know, I'd recorded the game and Man United Everton didn't start watching until about 9 o'clock. So I had 0 points in my mind till about 9 o'clock. Little did I know that I basically still had roughly 0 points around about 7:30. Because I left Sufel on the bench. It's worth saying the bastard hit the crossbar as well, right?
Oh,
with one of your few efforts on goal. So that could have been pretty bad. I left Areola on the bench. I picked Johnston thinking, well, we're shit at the moment with no Harry Kane. Harry Kane rocks up on Sunday. We'll come on to that. Areola on the bench because I obviously went with Johnston. Lookman on the bench, 3-pointer. Fulham nil, West Ham nil was literally, if you'd written the script Fulham West Ham for me, it couldn't have been a bigger disaster. I've got 15 points on the bench from Areola, Sufal, Lookman, which could have been more for all of them. I've got Suchek, obviously, sent off, and Antonio captain. If you'd have said, what's the worst outcome for you here, I would have gone, well, it's more than 4 points. What's a disaster? But then recovered, obviously, very late on Saturday night because I did start Calvert-Lewin. James Justin on Sunday and Ilkay Gundogan after his original penalty miss. I was thinking the irony when he missed. You can't believe all the discussion we've had about these kind of 5 million midfielders. And then suddenly we've all got Suchek sent off and Gundogan missed penalty on the same weekend. And he's still mass hauled Gundogan. Unbelievable. Yes. So my weekend very much saved by Justin, Gundogan, Calvert-Lewin. I did have Mohamed Salah goal as well, but that cost me the double Manchester City clean sheet. And I'd certainly rather had the double Man City clean sheet. Not that it would have made a big difference point-wise, but it would have helped me a bit more rank-wise, I believe.
Yeah, so it ended up that James Justin's basically the difference between us, really. Difficult week. But 57 still gets you a green arrow. So.
We've got, Suj. No, that's a small red at the moment for me.
Oh, okay. In the Correspondence League, it was green, but otherwise it's red.
So I'm down to about 390k, obviously, with Bamford tonight. I mean, it was like 370k at the start of the week. So, I mean, it's basically a grey, isn't it? I did say this week that I didn't want to lose ground this week. That was part of my reason for picking the double City defensive and James Justin over Sufal and Ben Mee, who I bought in for Andrew Robertson on Thursday night. Was I didn't want to lose the ground this week, which makes me more annoyed at the fact that I captained Antonio. But even that, all right, I'd have captained Bruno. I haven't got Heung-min Son.
Bruno.
Sorry, I should mention
reasonable return.
I should obviously mention Bruno's goal as well, but that's obviously bad for me having not captained him. So could have been a lot better game week. Could have been a lot worse, by the way, as well, though. We've got 3 double game weeks coming up, Suj. And there's a chance that it's 5 double game weeks, potentially, depending on a lot of what happens this midweek. That, yes, we could have doubles going to 27 and 28 as well. I mean, to be honest, we're pretty convinced that Man City will double in 27. And then it's a case, could we have something in 28? I'd say, to be honest, it's quite possible, depending on the cup results. It's very conceivable that they put something like Sheffield United and Villa, if it needs to be postponed into game week 28 or something, or West Brom against Everton. Games from 29, those that don't involve the European games are not necessarily going to go into 26, particularly those for, say, Villa and Everton, who have got other games to rearrange as well. So we could have 5 double game weeks before the blank. You can make mass ground in that period, Suj. You know, I wildcarded in game week 16 at 1.9 million and landed in like game week 20 where I am now. So you can soon shoot up, mate, over this sort of period.
Yeah, no doubt about it. My challenge, though, is the high ownership, James. So many players with the high ownership are returning right now that I don't have. So James Justin 2 weeks in a row, Gundogan for the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's been brutal. So, yeah, difficult. And the differentials that I had that I thought might do okay, like Rashford, for example, hasn't really returned. I'm going into this this week with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players with a double game week, and I obviously have 2 transfers as well that I could potentially make.
I'm on 7 doublers. I have 2 free transfers, but I'm looking more to target the doubles afterwards. I'm quite happy with my lot there for the 7. I think I'll leave it there, and I want to target as I'm not intending to use the wild card in 25 unless this midweek goes badly. Then I'm looking to look at perhaps buying Leeds next week or Southampton, or even looking beyond at, say, if United have the double in 26, I might add Marcus Rashford back in. I thought he was brilliant on Saturday night. It was the first time he'd really opened my eyes and gone, wow, eye test wise, I like what I'm seeing here from you. And obviously it's easy to look beyond. You think, doublers. Oh yeah, I've got to get more doublers. But Rashford's got West Brom and Newcastle in his next 2 before potentially a double himself. And we can look beyond this sort of thing sometimes, I think. It all depends on the cup results in terms of what my next move is. Because it might be, Suj, that the cup results leave me in a position that's going to be really bad for 26. And I think, oh, wow, that's going to leave me probably wildcarding in 25. In which case, I'll get another 2 players this week. We've got doubles, most probably.
Yeah. And obviously the FA Cup kicks off tomorrow. We've got 3 days of FA Cup. So by the time we get to Friday this week, we'll have a slightly clearer picture of who's left in, what fixtures we know are definitely happening in game week 29. And we will be recording a strategic podcast all about the fixtures, who's playing, who's not, and how you navigate the next 5 or 6 weeks. So stay tuned for that on Friday. We've got a little bit of a break of no Premier League football midweek this week, James, which is nice. I feel like I need a little bit of a
just a break from a deadline's quite nice.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we still play 7:30 tomorrow, so I'll still get to watch the game, but very different mindset going into it. Should we run down the 9 games that we've had as we always do? And if we get a bit of time, we can look at some questions on Twitter and the thoughts that are in people's minds. The reality is, though, at the moment, do nothing, as we've been saying for a while. Until Friday, it doesn't matter how much you want Ilkay Gundogan, do nothing.
Do nothing. Yeah. I'm seriously.
I was curious. James pulled his headphones off. I was curious what you were doing.
I can hear a buzzing noise. Can you hear it?
Nah.
I don't know what it is. You know, sometimes I have this poxy leaf blower outside on a Thursday.
Yeah.
He's been out there this morning blowing snow, hasn't he, the prick?
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's him, but I just can hear a weird buzzing noise. Maybe it's just the loopiness going inside of my head of what Spurs have done to me. Yes, don't make any transfers now, guys. There's so much to gain knowledge-wise in the next 4 days. I don't really care, even if you're sitting there with Suchet and you're going, yeah, I know I want to buy Rafinha. I know I want to buy Gundogan. Don't do it. Just wait till Friday. It's February now. Sod the price rises. Make the right transfer on Friday. If you end up making the same one and you lose 0.1 or so, fine. So be it. Honestly, are we all struggling for money at the moment? I don't feel like we are. There is no reason to be making early transfers. I don't get it. I don't get anybody's reasoning for making a transfer now. Oh, no, that's what I'm going to do. You know you're going to buy Ilkay Gundogan until he gets injured for Manchester City in the Cup on Wednesday night. There's so many reasons not to make a transfer, honestly. Wait till Friday.
Let's start with the Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 0 result. As predicted, Aston Villa got a result against Arsenal.
Well, Matt Ryan was in goal for Arsenal, which was a bonus. 3 minutes in, he still managed to keep up his... to be honest, for Arsenal, it was better than having Runarsson in goal. I can tell you.
Yeah, it's true. I did see a lot of Arsenal fans afterwards were like, actually, to be fair, he was one of their better performers in the game.
To be honest, I think he made more. By the end of the game, he'd made more saves for Arsenal this season than he has for Brighton, I think.
It's incredible. But I did see, I think it was on AFTV, they said, don't worry, a couple more games and we'll soon beat the good out of him and make him mediocre like everyone else in the team.
He's mediocre anyway.
Very downbeat. But Matt Ryan did come in. Arsenal didn't have their best game, including the likes of Saka and Smith Rowe and what have you.
They've made a really early error early in the game with Cedric, who's been playing quite well from covering at left back. Obviously, tries to lay a ball back to Gabriel, and Bertrand Traore's on it immediately, and then his goal. And it's interesting because obviously when Watkins scored, you think, is this the week that the haul's coming? And it really could have been again, and yet still wasn't. But he's ticking over very, very nicely, Ollie Watkins, still very much on my radar, depending on certain things that happen this midweek. Villa weren't great, to be honest. Weren't great at all, off the back of obviously a disappointing result in midweek against yourselves. And they were a bit fortunate at Southampton at the weekend as well. They weren't great, but then Arsenal, despite dominating large parts of the game territorially and on possession, you didn't feel like they were going to score. Aubameyang comes on half hour to go, has 8 touches. It's not the worst statistic in the world, but you'd have thought with the amount of domination they was having, he'd have been a bit more involved than that. Just didn't really feel like they were going to score, to be honest. And in the end, I think 1-0 was probably about right, just on the basis that once Villa were ahead, they were happy to sit off and try and counter-attack Arsenal like they did so well at the Emirates earlier in the season. But didn't really happen. Didn't really happen.
I would put it just literally down to fatigue. Like, they've played so many games. Quite a number of teams are looking a little bit tired because of the amount of football. I think they just need a little bit of a bit more spacing between matches. Once European stuff kicks in next week, Villa will obviously have a longer gap between the fixtures, and then hopefully they'll get back to regular winning ways.
Sorry, for the benefit of those on YouTube, it really feels like I got a wasp in the room, and I can't believe I've got a wasp in the room with this snow outside.
Mad.
I got nothing really to add on Villa and Arsenal, other than I think even if Arsenal end up with a double in 26, I can't see people looking at them. Maybe Saka, but I mean, look, Man City in 25 before the double, if that comes around, and that only happens obviously if you win at Old Trafford in 26. I think they're probably more to come back and revisit maybe in 27 if you get beat on Tuesday night. For Villa, there's so much stuff that could happen with their doubles. The endless permutations, including that they might end up playing Tottenham in Gameweek 29 rather than Sheffield United. There's a possibility. It's endless permutations. You need to keep them very much in your thoughts. And I think priority for me would probably be Martinez. If it lands properly, I can get in to pair with Areola.
Ahead of McCarthy, because earlier you were previously thinking McCarthy might be the one that gets...
I'm put off by the fact that, as I explained on one of the pods we did last week, I'm put off by the possibility that we might get to deadline and we might not know the layout of the fixtures. And it's possible that Southampton could double in 25, 27, not 26. And that's not what I need, because I need the 26 doubler. I don't need the 29 cover. And I'm a bit fearful that we won't get the fixtures before the deadline, so we can have an idea. But that sort of thing is one where I'm not sure which way it's going to go, potentially. Whereas I'm very confident the Villa will double in 26. And they're one of the cases where there's a good possibility they'll double in 26 and play in 29, which for people like me not looking to wildcard over this period is the ideal kind of people you want to be invested in. Martinez is kind of hurting. I mean, his ownership for a goalkeeper is actually quite monstrous at the moment. So Martinez, Grealish, Watkins... quite straightforward. They're the three that's most in mind for me at the moment.
Yeah, Martinez up to 34.8%. Incredible for a goalkeeper.
Big for a goalkeeper.
I've got it penciled down on my list is to sell Antonio next week after the Sheffield United game for Ollie Watkins. West Ham go into quite a difficult run. And I know with Antonio, any place, any time. But I just like for the next 7 or 8 weeks with the increased opportunity of Villa having more than one double, And West Ham, yeah, I think Antonio. There was talk that he asked to be taken off at the weekend.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So I will be looking at. I'm going to keep him for the Sheffield United game. It just wouldn't make any logical sense to sell Antonio for Sheffield United at home. But then I'll be looking to move him on to Ollie Watkins for game week 25, and that gives me a run through for a little while. And hopefully Villa do end up with a few doubles. Burnley 1, Brighton 1. I didn't realise it was A versus A, B versus B, first two games of the game week. Burnley, Brighton. If in doubt, as you said, James, when we were making predictions with Brighton, just pick a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, if you've ever got any doubts on a Brighton score, go for 1-1. Yeah, spot on. Burnley should have won this, though. It's worth saying. There's an interesting thing just to cover Brighton off briefly. One, I love the irony of Lewis Dunk scoring. Yeah, it wasn't lost on most people because I think until the doubles for 24 were announced, there was obviously a lot of interest for Brighton following the 4 previous clean sheets. You look at Dunk and you go, well, he's more expensive than the likes of Webster, but he's 100% nailed. I don't need to worry about the value at the moment. Is Lewis Dunk consideration? And then as soon as everybody heard that Burnley double, it was like, oh, forget that. Right, let's talk about me, Tarkowski and Loughton instead. And then obviously Dunk, the irony of itself, scores against Burnley. Brilliant. We should have been able to write this thing and seen it coming. Interestingly, they're going through a spell, Brighton, of less possession. So FPL Seagull highlighted this last week about during those 1-0 wins, they'd had less of the ball. Now, in those games, Leeds, Tottenham, Liverpool, you can fairly expect that. I mean, to be honest, if they'd have been losing to Tottenham, they'd have had more of the ball, but then they retreated and let Tottenham piss about and do sod all with the thing last Sunday. But I assumed, obviously, going into this game, they would have more of it. It wasn't the case. I don't know if this is an ongoing theme to try and help Brighton potentially with the counter-attacking, but it didn't really work here. And Burnley should have won, actually. Yeah. This was, think Burnley at their horrible, awkward best to play against. This was it. They probably should have won the game. The draw was the least that they deserved. Tyre Vidra was pretty lively up front. Matt Loughton impressed at right back. Suj, was he in your team, stuck on your bench?
Third sub this week.
Okay. Well, to be honest, your bench could have had a lot more bloody points on it as well because he had plenty of crosses into the box.
He's playing this week, though, obviously, because he's got the double. Yep. So straight into the team.
He's obviously the cheap one to look at, Matt Loughton. Personally, I would still prefer to go with a me or Tarkowski for the double and just longer term thinking. But if you are concerned about value in any way, Matt Loughton's the way to go rather than risking a Charlie Taylor or an Eric Peters at the moment. That would be the way. Obviously, Nick Pope is going to be really popular. It may yet be that for me, come Friday, I end up with Nick Pope. I can't see it because we've got Areola covering the double already. And as I said, I don't really want to go into the game week with 2 double game week goalkeepers and only be able to use one. I don't really want to put myself in that position. So it might even be, weirdly, that I come back for Pope after this double is a possibility. Because Areola's sitting there ready for me for 29.
Yeah, Pope's just got better fixtures. See, I was of the same mindset as you in that you'd convince me to think, well, I've got Areola. Yeah, why am I going to waste a transfer when I've already got a double game week goalkeeper? And then I got to thinking, well, Pope's got the better fixtures. So if I'm going to buy Pope, I do it now before the Brighton game. And now that he didn't get a clean sheet in the Brighton game, I feel like, yes, I got away with it. Because if I'd have wanted Pope, I should have got him before Brighton. And there was no clean sheet to be had at Brighton. So now, screw it, leave it, just get Areola and come back to it later.
Pope's double is obviously better than Areola's. And then you look afterwards and go, yeah, Pope's got West Brom at home. Areola's got Sheffield United as well. So there's not, between that, what am I flipping? I'm not sure I want to be. I mean, to be honest, at the moment, I'd say Sheffield United are now better than West Brom, but yeah, they are. Fulham could well go to Burnley and win and keep a clean sheet. It's kind of my point. I'm not sure I want to flip that. No. So I don't see me going for Nick Pope, but Nick Pope will be so popular this week for a lot of people, and that's completely understandable. They're highly likely to double in 26 as well. So you look like you're getting double West Brom double. And that's what's really appealing about Burnley. The awkward ones for people still sitting there with Chris Wood. He's awful. Because you don't know, even if he's declared, in a way, you're probably sitting there thinking, I hope Sean Dyche says he's out for 3 weeks and makes my decision easy. Because if Dyche declares him fit, you probably think, well, wow, I've got double West Brom double. If he gets back in, that's great. But there's no guarantee he will. And as I said, Vidra played well on Saturday. And
Chris Wood, he is like FPL should they allow you to create a watch list. They should allow you to create a shit list. I don't think I'll ever own Chris Wood ever again in FPL. I just can't be bothered. I just don't think I'll ever own him again. They should allow you to do that. Lock players out of your account so you can't even see them appear
like
in the squad.
Gambling sites when you can set your deposits and stuff.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Set
an FPL like a Theo Walcott, Ross Barkley, a list of trolls who are like, no, you can't allow me to buy that player ever again. I quite like that as an idea. That'd be good.
Do you know what we would make quite good money out of as well? Do you remember for cars? There used to be this thing in some countries, you can get it where you have to breathalyze to start the car. So you turn the car on, you have to blow into it. You could get a device that plugs into the bottom of your mobile phone that when you open fantasy.premierleague.com, you have to blow into it to make sure you're not pissed before you make any transfers. That's what I'm going to spend the afternoon doing, James. Inventing a product.
You reminded me of a brilliant story in the Football League earlier this year. I think it was Oxford. Were traveling to Accrington. I might have this wrong. But the coach was pissed. Not as in the manager or the coach. I mean, the team coach to take the players was pissed. They filled it up with alcohol disinfectant because of COVID.
Okay.
But then the coach was locked because the coach was pissed because of all the alcohol fumes. It wouldn't start.
Oh, wow.
So they all had to go in individual cars. I think they went and won 4-1 as well. Good story, that.
Oh, madness. Let's talk about Newcastle 3, Southampton 2. If only we could clip it out when you said, I think Newcastle will score more goals, but they might concede a few more too.
I could clip that out, but that would be a bit vain, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it's very easy to find the predictions that work well. It's only fair if you then find all the other ones that don't quite go to plan as well, because we predict more that goes wrong than goes right.
No shit.
I mean, yeah, what do we do? I mean, Newcastle hanging on by the end with only 9 men because of Shah's injury, wasn't it? That was a problem, but yeah.
Heroic performance in the end on... They definitely got some draining issues there. Newcastle don't pay for nothing, and something else they don't pay for is a good drainage system, because the amount of surface water on the pitch compared to other games which were also getting bucketed on this weekend. I mean, that was bad. If the pitch had been like that at the start of the game, it might not have happened. I think. But it was good. It was old fashioned. It was old school. They played 4-4-0, very narrow after they went down to 9 men. It was basically 8 men because Joe Linton was one of the 9, but they hung on. Credit to them. And it's interesting, even when they went down to 10, Jeff Hendrick wins the award for daftest second yellow card of the season. You prat. What's he doing there? Straight after they'd scored as well.
Yeah.
I thought back to the game that we had with them last year at Tottenham when Aurea got sent off for 2 yellows after about 25 minutes. And we beat Southampton 2-1. Admittedly, they were in a far worse position then than they are now. But I said to you then, if I pick one team to play against with 10 men, Southampton would be right up the top of the list. And I was thinking about that watching this again. Because it only felt like really that they were going to score if something just dropped around the box to a Danny Ings or something. When teams put up a low block against Southampton, the creativity's missing. It only feels like it's going to come from, as I said, something drops in the box, or James Ward-Prowse delivery from a set piece or something. You don't feel like they're going to open anyone up. People just go very narrow against Saints, and they like games at high tempo, and then it becomes the opposite, and they're not quite comfortable with that. For Newcastle, yes, as said, obviously, I thought that there would be more goals in their games coming up. It's worth saying Callum Wilson's injury is serious, which I presume it's going to be enough to at least keep him out of a couple of weeks. Then that may change, because psychologically they're now missing their goal scorer, right? But they're pressing off the ball. All the goals they scored basically came from defensive errors. Stevens, who played out of position at right back, dived in on St. Maximin and then gets done on the first goal, finished by Joe Willock on his debut on loan from Arsenal. The second goal is a bit of a comedy as well, because Almiron's shot wasn't going to hit the back of the net. Then it comes off Bednarek, who had a VAR review for a potential sending off in the second half. And I was They gave the goal to Almiron, but at the time I wasn't looking at FPL's website or anything. I was wondering if he was going to get the double of own goal and red card in back-to-back games. That would have taken some doing. And the third goal comes from sloppy play from like McCarthy, who he's a bad pass out. Bertrand doesn't see Almiron coming. Good pressing from Almiron. It's what I said about Newcastle, actually pressing in a structure off the ball in terms of what they're doing. And then McCarthy gets his angles so badly wrong. And Almiron just rolls it, not even hard, into the near post.
Yeah. It was a good finish from Almiron, definitely.
But Newcastle have got Chelsea away and Manchester United away in their next two. So let's be honest and say I could say anything I like about Newcastle. Well, you ain't going to go and buy any of their players. No. And their double would be Wolves at home and Brighton away. If it happens, though, that's unlikely in 26. I just think in terms of the value of their players, you're still going to be looking more at people like Villa, Leeds, their opponents, Southampton, etc. On Southampton's schedule, like, wow, as I said, they could double 25, have a single fixture in 26, which would be Everton away. That's not overly appealing. And then they could double again in 27 against maybe Man City. The other game would be Sheffield United away, which obviously is appealing. So I think we need to wait on Southampton. Danny Ings is top priority for me. The only thing I'd say on him is he hasn't, I wouldn't say he's been scoring loads since he come back fit. And he looked quite frustrated at the weekend. That might have been just on the game and thinking, come on, it's against 9 men. We need to find a goal here or whatever. But I found his mannerisms quite frustrated. With strong rumours in January that he was looking to leave. And I think he will be looking to leave in the summer. Whether that impacts now or not, I don't know. But for me, I know that he's a great goal scorer. And if they've got doubles, he's the sort of player that I'm going to be interested in. So I think Danny Ings is top priority for me.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with Danny Ings. I wouldn't mind looking at Danny Ings, but the only player that I can sell to get Danny Ings that would keep my squad structure how I would like it would be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And really, I'd rather find a way of downgrading Salah to somebody that lets me go from Calvert-Lewin to Harry Kane rather than Danny Ings for a bit further down the road. So I think I'm going to skip Southampton. The one that I might look at would be Vestergaard. If I feel like they're going to get back into some kind of form at the back, he's still a reasonable price, I think, Vestergaard. So if I think he's going to stay fit, Southampton, the only place I'm going to will be Vestergaard. But with Soufal, Dallas got a double, Loughton's got a double. I don't really see the need.
At the moment, I've got consideration to buy McCarthy, Walker-Peters, Vestergaard, Ward-Prowse, Minamino, Che Adams because of price, and Danny Ings. They're all potential buys for me in the next 10 days or so. And I've got an open mind about it. I think the most likely move, not this week, but next week, is Antonio to Danny Ings for me. There's your segue, Suj.
To Fulham 0, West Ham 0, which ended up being a real disappointment of a game.
So he was like tired. Fault.
Well, I felt in the morning in London, it was quite a clear, bright, sunny morning. So I thought, you know what, this is the type of day where if it's this conditions in the evening, that we'll see quite a decent game. And just after lunch, it started raining and getting quite miserable. And I was like, in these conditions, I don't think it's going to be as good a game of football as it would have been had it been what we had in the morning. And the closer we got to the game, the more miserable it got, the more I thought this is going to be a bit of a grim watch. And credit to Fulham, they dominated the game. They weren't excessively dangerous. If you look at the stats, they had a lot more chances. The quality of the chances wasn't as good, in my opinion, as it could have been based on the volume of chances. Like West Ham had 3 or 4 chances. Soufal's header, Souček had an opportunity with a header. Bowen could have put it in. And those 3 or 4 chances combined were as good as the 3 or 4 best chances that Fulham had, for example. They just had a bigger volume of chances. But ultimately, they just did a really good job of not letting us play with the ball. We couldn't keep the ball and couldn't get any rhythm of passing going whatsoever. I think the credit for that, a lot of it goes to Harrison Reed. So my brother messaged me and turned around. He goes, "Who's that little ginger fella they got? He's everywhere." But yeah, Harrison Reed played really well. Didn't give us any space or time on the ball, and we had no progressive build-up play with the ball. We were absolutely non-existent. So then you've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who basically bossed the midfield. Every time he picked up the ball, he's so big and strong. It's hard to brush him off, right? You're going to bounce off the guy. And driving runs, spreading play, he dominated the midfield. And Lookman was very dangerous as well in the final third. Like, feed him in. He was trying to create stuff. On another day with a little bit more quality, I think Fulham could have beaten us. But we defended well. It's what you're going to get with West Ham. It doesn't matter if we don't play well. It's still going to be difficult to beat us because we set up so solid. And so it was a difficult day at the office. If you've got your West Ham defenders in Creswell and Sufal or whatever, you took your points and run. But Fulham could have got something out of the game. Could have got more out of the game.
They changed system, obviously, Fulham. Went back to a back four, which as soon as I saw that, I was in two minds whether that was good or bad news for Antonio. But I already in my mind was regretting the captaincy because I thought, oh, I'm going to see something different to what I'm expecting here. I'm not happy with that. And I didn't see that coming, to be honest. You mentioned Harrison Reed. Did play well. And defensively, they're all right. The goalkeeper's good. The two centre-halves are good. Adebayo is due a goal any game, by the way. I'll tell you what, you want a cheap punt for the double game week. There's a name to throw out for you, Adebayo. But playing Reed with Lamina meant that I felt like they didn't have quite the same drive from midfield because Anguissa didn't play. And I like Anguissa as well.
Yeah, I thought Lamina wasn't great, to be honest with you. I'd rather Anguissa play than Lamina, but Ruben Loftus-Cheek was giving them their drive.
Loftus-Cheek does my head in because I agree with you, arguably best player on the pitch. But it's like it gets to final third with him and all the good stuff before stops. You never feel like he's going to create. You never feel like he's going to score. And that's why he annoys me because I think he's a super footballer. But I never feel like he's going to be the one at the end of the day who creates something for Fulham or scores the goals for Fulham. I'd actually like him to play in a deeper position. Now, they don't need that because they've got 3 good holding midfield players already. But I think if he's going to play in that role as a 10 and have that freedom, he's got to do more at the top end. I'm not criticising him as a player. They need goals. Look how they finished the end of the game.
I think
with like Lookman and Cavallero at wing backs and stuff. They've gone all out for it.
The thing is, Loftus-Cheek's got it in his locker. I was debating this in the game. I was like, yeah, it's not quite working out. Is it because the other players in and around are not quite good enough? Now, Loftus-Cheek's never had, I mean, he did at Palace a little bit, but a consistent run of games. He's getting to the age now where he needs to be playing week in, week out consistently for a decent Premier League side, not scrapping around the bottom like he was when he was on loan at Palace or Fulham or what have you. He's much better than that team. But so I gave him the benefit of the doubt at the weekend that it was the players around him are not quite good enough, and he hasn't played football regularly enough to have that momentum for end product. Like if we sold Declan Rice, and we reinvested the money in Loftus-Cheek to be the replacement, I wouldn't complain about that. I think it'd be a good buy.
Loftus-Cheek would walk in the Tottenham team, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's the stature, the height and the strength and the physical presence that he carries as well for a player who's that mobile. That's my point. Very important.
When he gets to sort of running at people in central areas, he goes past people and he looks brilliant. But then when he gets sort of faced up at a back four or something, it's like he stops. Just go and run at someone. You're a unit. You're an animal. Like, go and take people on. And for whatever reason, for me, it feels like he gets into the final third and stops, and then quite often takes the easy option. He really is the best player in that team. And I think for Fulham to have a chance of staying up, he's got to start showing it. I mean, this double game week is pivotal for them. If they lose at Burnley next week, then we don't need to talk about relegation zone for the rest of the season because it's decided and finished, in my opinion.
Should we even bother talking about Mike Dean and Suj?
Not really. He's a prick, isn't he?
Just stupid and really disappointing. But the thing is now, I'm not even angry. We're numb to it now, aren't we?
Yeah. There's no anger. It's just laughing. It's laughing.
I mean, Arsenal could have had a penalty earlier in the Villa game with Martinez on Lacazette, maybe. I don't know what your thoughts on that. But every weekend, you feel like there's certain decisions that you Just yeah. Oh well, here we go. That's another one that we'll chalk up on the list of bad decisions and move on. Stupid. It'll get appealed. Great. It'll probably get rescinded. Great. But
The problem is, I don't know if it will, because they get stubborn like this, and it means they'll be overruling Mike Dean for the second consecutive game. What's the punishment on this? What's the punishment for him? Listen, we all know what happened, right? He's a bit dumb putting his elbow up. Don't get me wrong, but he's trying to
shake him off.
Yeah, he's being held. He tries to shake him off to get his arm around him, and then he wants to obviously attack the penalty area for the cross and go past him. And to be honest, even still, you can tell by the geezer's reaction straight away that he did not mean to do it. He's even basically caught the referee's attention to go, oh, I'm sorry. Like, and Mitrovic apparently was saying as well, I know he didn't mean it. And it's just a nonsense, absolute nonsense. Just use your brain a little bit. From the FPL perspective, I don't care at all, because it's one less headache for people's benching headaches. If he is suspended this week, is a point to say. And for myself personally, I was potentially selling him for Rafinha this week to prep for the next week. In any case, so it doesn't make a huge difference to my thoughts. There's every chance it will get overturned. Should the ban stick, he'll obviously be suspended for the game tomorrow night and game weeks 24 and 25. So he would be back for a potential double in game week 26. So factor that into your thinking. But I presume we will get a decision on Thomas Souček today, because he needs to know if he's going to play at Manchester United tomorrow night or not. So you haven't got long to wait to find out.
No. And talking of Manchester United, you just said there that Fulham lose to Burnley and we can tie up the relegation zone. United failed to win at home to Everton, and we're almost talking about tying up the title race here as well.
But there's plenty of bookmakers have paid out, and actually were paying out before City's win yesterday or Man City winning the league. So
really,
yeah, there's loads have done it already. Yeah.
Wow.
They want to put money in people's pockets, so people take the money back out of their pockets and give it back to them for the next bet. That's all they're thinking, right?
Yeah, true.
Do you know what? In a weird way, this was, if you ignore the anomaly of the Leeds game, which Leeds games can be an anomaly for everybody, this might be the best that United played at Old Trafford this season. That they were good for 20 minutes. Everton played a diamond, right? And completely shut United off, basically. And they couldn't work space. Then they got the goal, and then they came alive.
Yeah.
Cavani, the front three, to be honest, I leave Fernandes out of this for the moment. The front three of Cavani, Rashford left, Greenwood right, was the best I'd seen the United front three play in terms of their link all season, I think. They were really good, all three of them. Rashford was great. And Cavani gives them all the off-the-ball stuff, both with and without the ball, that Martial can't.
Yeah.
He's an elite forward, Edison Cavani, even at his age, and he still works tremendously hard. So, I mean, United should have won this game. No doubt about it. Everton, as I said, nullified United till they scored, but then couldn't implement the clear counter-attacking plan they had, which was to get Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison away down the sides beyond the fullbacks, particularly Richarlison. And it didn't happen. And then the first time they did it in the second half, they scored.
We know now that Bruno Fernandes listens to the podcast, James.
Yes.
Because he heard you say that, Jordan Pickford's not playing. Olsen will be all right. And so decided, let me show that James Linden of Planet FPL that I don't give a shit who's in goal. I'll still finish with absolute class.
What I didn't know about Olsen was, because I'd watched Olsen at Leeds last week. I watched that game. And to be honest, if he wasn't in goal, Everton probably wouldn't have beat Leeds, actually. So I'm thinking, do you know what? This guy's going to put some real pressure on Jordan Pickford now. What I didn't realise was that Olsen was going to turn up to this particular game and put a couple of tons of glue on the bottom of his feet, right? I mean, Jesus, that's the old Joe Hart problem, that one. Not so much on the Fernandes goal. It's a difficult one.
Fernandes' goal was class finish.
Although it's not top bin, it really does dip. Yeah. So I can get
horrible.
But on McTominay's goal, I don't know what that is. I've looked at it so many times over. I know it's like one of his feet gives way, but he's not moving his feet anyway. It's really weird. But talking of goalkeeper criticisms, the guy at the other end.
There was quite a bit of talk on Twitter about, is it now time to gracefully hand over the changing of the guard to Dean Henderson?
The thing is, Henderson's not overly excelled when he's played in games.
He hasn't
for United this
season so far.
And De Gea has actually been on a better run recently where you've gone, oh, maybe he's got his form back and stuff. I mean, the two errors here are so bad. Calvert-Lewin, I don't know why he tries to cross/shoot the thing with his right foot in the first place, because he can never put any power on it from that angle with his right foot. So how De Gea manages to fumble that, I'm not sure. Just catch it. And the third goal, mate, I mean, to be honest, is almost worse to the extent that you have to go and clatter everything. It's the last setting of the game. Go back and watch the goal that Son scored against United really early in the season. You know, when Kane got fouled and then spun him through. Yeah. Done the same thing. Just kind of stands there and does nothing. So as a goalkeeper, you should make yourself big. Don't get me wrong. But you should also close towards the ball because you're narrowing angles at the same time. De Gea just makes himself bigger and stands still. He's bottled that. He knows Calvert-Lewin's coming into him and he doesn't want none of it. Fucking hell. Last seconds of the game, mate. Clear everything. If he whacks Calvert-Lewin, That's what he should do. He's the goalkeeper. He's got the advantage of being able to do things with his hands. Really bad. Really bad.
I still think we're going to lose to. I think we're going to lose to Manchester United in the FA Cup tomorrow. Now,
that's all right. I still think we're going to lose to Everton on Wednesday night.
That's a segue into Sunday's game. Spurs 2, West Brom 0. From nowhere, the return of Harry Kane.
Just finally on United, don't ignore the assets for those two games coming up, West Brom and Newcastle.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, Rashford and Fernandes are going to sit there for me.
It's not for me. I will definitely be captain and a Manchester City player next week. But West Brom and Newcastle, I tell you, it would be a harder call the following week if Newcastle still continue with their injury problems and playing a little bit more open now. Fernandes versus Newcastle versus, say, Bamford of a double, say, Wolves, Southampton. It's going to be interesting. That'll be closer. But I think this week it's still got a City player for the captaincy. Spurs, Harry Kane's return. I can't get my head around, Suj, that he wasn't even on the bench for a massive game against Chelsea, but he's been rushed in to start for this against West Brom. Just from an outsider's point of view, can you give me your opinion on that?
Well, pre-game, desperation.
But why was he on the bench against Chelsea? I cannot believe he's had an ankle injury. He was out for 7 days. One of them, to be honest, it was more a case of one kind of impacted the problem of the other because he couldn't put weight on the one that wasn't so bad. Do we believe that on Thursday he was in no position to partake in that game against Chelsea, but suddenly on Sunday morning against West Brom he is? Something's not right with this. I can't work it out. And I can't even work out why they've risked him against West Brom. Use him from the bench and then bring him on if need be. Thoughts?
Yeah. But then when you're saying something else is going on, what, Harry Kane refused to play on Thursday?
No. Don't be daft. Don't be daft. To be honest, I'm not even blaming. I'm not even blaming it on Mourinho. To be honest, I'm more questioning from the medical department. I can't believe, like I said, that he's got no chance of playing 15, 20 minutes on the Thursday in a massive game, but then against the worst team in the league, it's all right for him to play 90 minutes, like in 2.5 days later. It doesn't make sense.
But he did play, and he played all right. He played decent.
And he looked, but that's the thing as well. He didn't look. There's times Harry Kane's come back from injury and you think, oh, he needs a few games here. He's in trouble. I mean, it feels like he's been out for longer because of the amount of games. But he's only been out for 10 days, right? So fitness levels should be fine. And he looked fit. And he should have scored more than once as well. He easily could have walked away with a match ball in this game. And on different days he would have. He looked absolutely fine. The concern is that there was no need to risk him in this particular game. He went down injured in the first 5 minutes. It was like, you are fucking joking, aren't you? Like, surely not. It would have been unacceptable if he got booked injured in that game.
Yeah.
West Brom are so bad. We've got Gemarino on Clash to Correspondence tomorrow, and we'll see what she says about their situation. Even though they could have decent fixtures and a double coming up, so it could be Burnley before a double of Brighton and Everton. I don't think you're going anywhere near it. The most likely thing you are to do at the moment is if you've got Johnson, you might end up holding him if you're looking to bench boost, for example. Otherwise, I can't see the interest. The Spurs, it's a different team with Kane. It's a different team with Kane fit, isn't it? I liked that Lucas played. I liked that Lamela played. In terms of the attacking players, I liked the team that Mourinho picked with Ndombele in central midfield. But it is all easy to do these things and look better with respect against they're a championship team. I've said this before. There's no one in that team who will even get bought in the summer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Leaving Pereira out was bizarre. Get Gemma's opinion on that tomorrow as well. I don't know what that's all about. I wouldn't be surprised if later I turned on the news and Allardyce was sacked. I mean, his contribution to the game was trying to take a throw in injury time. He seemed to think it was funny. I'll tell you what, if my team was in the league position, I wouldn't think that was particularly funny at the moment, personally. I just think he's reading the script wrong.
It's surprising how little impact he's had.
Nothing. They haven't done anything. They haven't done anything. And it depends on your interpretation of the game. So I saw tweets at half time saying Allardyce teaching Mourinho here on schooling of how to set a team up to defend. Sorry, Kane's missed 2 golden chances that on a different day he puts away with his eyes closed here. So I don't think that's really the case. For Spurs, the main question is, when do we go back in? Well, it's game week 26. It's Man City away next. It's West Ham away next. If you've got Son this week, I think a lot of people are going to bench him. Really, really do. I wouldn't, because of the capability of the player, his record against City historically. But you couldn't see anything other than the City clean sheet at the moment, even with Son and Kane fit, in my opinion. There's no doubt that, I mean, they've got a double anyway, but if it was a single game week fixture, no hesitation for me to pick Diaz and Stones again in this game week. West Ham away afterwards, difficult game, always is. Kane obviously does have a good record in London derbies, we know that, but I don't think it's going to be the priority. It depends the way the double lands. The thing is, and this is the interesting thing, if Spurs' double is Burnley, well, it will be Burnley at home in 26. If it's Southampton at home as well, or Fulham away, then that's possible triple captaincy for Kane, in spite of everything I say. To be honest, it might even be that Burnley Southampton is the best for that, in terms of the counter-attacking. Think back to the game in game week 2. And it's possible that's the way it will land. Quite possibly that it might be Burnley Southampton. And if that's the case, if Harry's fit, it may be a case that I get him in and stick the triple captaincy armband on him in 26. But it all depends on how it falls.
Yeah, I'm looking at a way of manoeuvring Harry Kane back in over Heung-min Son at the moment. And Harry Kane's at 11 million, which is a decent price. I'm happy to downgrade.
There's a bloody differential at the moment, Harry Kane. And he's going to stay that way because people aren't buying him before Man City away. So it's going to stay that way for a little bit.
Yeah. Wolves 0, Leicester 0. I didn't watch it, so I can't give you any advice or anything.
All right.
I'm still disappointed with not owning Justin, but I don't feel like I can get Justin now.
He's got his blue star now, James Justin. team of the season. I think it's the first time he's got to this stage. I mean, that's crazy. And interestingly, Leicester players took it in turns to wipe out Adama Traore, who had one of his better days. But James Justin was never that guy. He defended him pretty well, actually. It was more when Traore ran into central areas, give Leicester more of a problem. Wolves could have won it, particularly with a Fabio Silva chance at the end. I know Jamie Vardy had a half chance as well, came on as a sub, and it's obviously crucial for Leicester that he's back fit. Wolves probably could have won the game. But watching the game all the way through, I felt 25 minutes in, I looked at the clock and went, this is finishing 0-0, isn't it? And it feels like that quite a bit when you watch Wolves games at the moment, that could happen, particularly now they've gone back to this back 5. Not a disastrous result for either. I got the impression watching the game that both weren't disappointed to be coming out with a 0-0. Interestingly, since Jota scored a hat-trick in that fixture 4-3 a couple of years ago, I think it was Claude Puel's last game in charge of Leicester. They played each other 4 times since then. Every time it's been a 0-0, except the game earlier this season. Jamie Vardy scored a penalty. So last 4 meetings, 1 goal, and that was a penalty.
Wow, that's a really interesting stat.
So that's not going to help you with your season to come because don't play each other again, by the way. But it might be something to be conscious of in the future that these two look quite capable of cancelling each other out at the moment. And I think they have games, both of these sides, where Wolves as a back 5 is good defensively, right? In spite of they've had a bad season. The back 5 defensively largely is pretty good. And Leicester defensively are becoming a decent side as well. I mean, Siyuncu and Pereira have come into the team for Fofana and Castagna, and it doesn't even particularly feel worse at the moment. It feels almost just as strong So they're good defensively as well. Leicester-Liverpool this coming week. What a big game that is. That starts the game week 12:30 Saturday as well. Big game. Leicester, interestingly, are one who highly likely to double in 26, which will probably be Arsenal at home and Burnley away. The interesting thing to factor in with them is probably two really good fixtures afterwards, Brighton and Sheffield United. But it's a little bit more difficult beforehand. So they're an interesting one to follow, Leicester. Wolves, forget. Kilman's getting a run. Kilman's getting a run in the team. So might be of interest to people again. But I personally, I feel like that could change at any time. Although I know Bradley Parker, our Wolves correspondent, is pleased that he's playing at the moment. I think Bradley feels he deserves his shirt if it's going to be a back 3/5. Yep.
We talked about Leicester. Liverpool is the upcoming game. Liverpool 1, Manchester City 4.
This is the clip I'm cutting.
Didn't see a 4-1 necessarily, especially based on the first half. You said 3-1, didn't you?
Yeah, and what did I say in the clip? To be honest, Suj, I wanted to put 4-1.
I was trying to remember whether you said 2-1 and I wanted to say 3-1, and you said 3-1, but I want to say 4-1. I couldn't remember which it was. We knew City would.
Can I tell you why I didn't say 4-1? Because obviously I have the correct score predictions on my deadline streams now before the game weeks. And I did not want all the hate in there putting Man City to win 4-1. I thought 3-1 was acceptable. 4-1 picked them Reds fans, they can't take a joke. No. Never mind when something's serious. To be fair, having
said that,
it wasn't a 4-1 game. Yeah,
no,
I can't
Alisson, 2 mistakes that are that horrendous.
The thing is, on both mistakes, the first one, he tries to dribble, I think it was past Jesus, I want to say, and then played it to Fabinho, which was really awkward. Then it came back to him again, then he kind of cleared it into Foden. And on the third goal, before he receives the ball back from Wijnaldum and gives it to Bernardo Silva, he receives a back pass in the build-up to that and plays it to the side for Fabinho and nearly puts it out for a corner. It was like something was wrong. It was almost like he was playing concussed or something.
Yeah, it was weird. And his body language and what happened.
Yeah, it didn't look right. I wouldn't be surprised if he was still ill. It didn't look right.
Something was you just don't expect that. And then but credit to City in being clinical now, despite we're saying 2 Alisson mistakes. They did miss a penalty as well, did Man City. So they were good value for their victory if maybe the scoreline doesn't quite reflect it. Especially the second half. I didn't think Liverpool offered nearly enough going forward in the second half at all. First half, a little bit more of a threat. They were busy, but overall, Manchester City controlled the game so well. I mean, both sides on the ball were very good.
They can't play with intensity at the moment. And unless they find it, they're not going to get themselves out of this. Listen, they're good enough to still win games against anybody, but the kind of feeling that they've kind of had, and to be honest, it goes back to after the title was clinched in like June, July, where the performances started becoming lethargic. Like, think of the kind of, I know they had a lot of the ball when they lost to Arsenal, but it was a bit meek. They got battered at City. There were games in the restart, the 5-3 against Chelsea, some of the defensive mistakes. I think it's not quite right. Now, obviously, we know the centre-back problems mitigate, it's obvious, right? But the biggest problem at the moment is going forward. They don't look like they're going to score goals. Nothing they do at the moment is with intensity. I love Thiago as a footballer, but I don't know if he's just slowing them down at the moment.
Yeah, he seems to be the one that potentially drop him and see what happens.
They've got no drive in that midfield unless it comes from Wijnaldum. Need to get Henderson back into midfield.
I mean, I thought Curtis Jones did his best.
I like him. He's a good player.
Against us as well, when he came on, he did change it by offering that driving impetus. But they didn't have the ball.
The reason I thought they'd get well beat was it kind of, I spoke about it on Thursday or Friday's pod, whenever we did the pod, and instead of speaking about Klopp, speaking about mental fatigue. If you're mentally fatigued and you're chasing the ball around against Man City, you're in trouble. That said, interestingly, City had less of the ball. And this has become a theme. We saw it at Chelsea. We saw it at Southampton. Big away wins for Man City, where they've been happy to cede possession when they've been in a good team. It means that they're exploiting counter-attacking situations far better than what they were. And that makes them an incredibly dangerous animal. I mean, Phil Foden was... Every time he changed position, he got better. He played 3 different positions in the game. He basically played false nine. So they started up in more like a 4-1-4-1. Then at the start of the second half, they played 4-4-2 with Foden and Bernardo Silva up front briefly, which with those two up front, it feels more like two false nines, which we've seen them do before. They did it at Real Madrid in the Champions League last year. And then when Jesus came on, he went to the right and it was incredible, mate. I mean, the fourth goal, to be honest, I'm a bit disappointed seeing the replay because you start questioning if Alisson should have saved it. But maybe. Jesus, does he hit the thing? And it's just the confidence and the arrogance. He's mugging off Robertson at the end there. It's brilliant. On the second goal, he powers past Henderson. These are not joke footballers, right? What a player. I think it's a long-held belief for the majority of us that he has to be part of that team generally. Yes, they'll rotate, but he should be a part of that team. Are you going to leave him on the bench again?
Well, not this week, obviously, because the double game week up ahead.
Captain?
I don't think it was necessarily the worst decision prior to it, because obviously he got benched midweek and they're playing Liverpool. I expected a 2-1, so I thought benching Foden is going to be all right. I mean, plenty of Liverpool and City players were on plenty of benches at the weekend. I wouldn't captain him this week. I don't think so, but I hadn't thought about who I would captain this week. Gundogan again has returned as well. If people have jumped on him, it's not a bad shout. I mean, Gundogan is fine. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, it wouldn't surprise me if they match each other, though, to be honest with you, Foden and Gundogan.
It's going to be a really close... I've got Diaz, Stones, Gundogan, and to be honest, part of the decision of getting these players in the first place was for benefit of doubles, because I think these guys are likely to play twice in the majority of these doubles. So I'm not going to... I would rather have, for example, Cancelo than Stones. I think that goes without saying, but I'm not changing it about now. It's the same. It's the same. I'm not going to force out to take Stones out for a Foden, or to be honest, I could maneuver it with 2 free transfers to get Raheem Sterling in this week. One point I did want to make on yesterday, I thought Raheem Sterling played really well. Really good. Really went at Liverpool at key moments in the game. Really good.
He won the penalty, right? Obviously. So.
Yeah, and obviously played a crucial part in the first goal and obviously got the third himself and that. The second goal is interesting, and I'd advise anybody to go back and watch it. So this was the first Alisson cock up when it goes to Foden. At the time that Foden controls the ball, Gundogan is not in the picture, really. He is in the picture, but he's got players ahead of him. Just go back and watch that goal and watch the difference between Gundogan and Sterling. It's really interesting. Sterling pulls out or kind of holds his position, whereas Gundogan just goes right into the heart of the danger zone. He goes past Sterling. I'm not particularly criticising Sterling because I think Sterling thinks if I stand still here, everyone's going to get drawn to the goal, and if it pulls back to me, I can score. Yeah. It was just really interesting to see how the different players did that, because in terms of a structural, as Sterling is the closest, you think he would go into the goal and Gundogan would obviously then arrive to come on late to it. But Gundogan literally every time just goes into the heart of it. And where he becomes such a valuable asset as well, potentially now, is because of that, and City are scoring more goals like that. They've basically scored another few goals here where it's tap-ins, 3 of them basically.
Inside the 6-yard box.
And a lot of the goals have been scoring recently is that kind of across the face of goal. Think Sterling at Burnley, Jesus against Sheffield United. It's like they've got that back. Johnny Pringle spoke to us about this before, about City stopped scoring those type of goals. Now they're scoring them again. And that makes Gundogan as interesting as anybody because he just goes right at the heart of it. He gets himself in. Have a look at all the goals he scored. Other than the goal against Palace, they're all like 10 yards out. All of them.
Let's wrap up the games, James. Well, we've got time with Sheffield United 1, Chelsea 2. And for all the good things that we've looked at and predicted, I suppose, I mean, it was a good finish from Rudiger, who's a decent Chelsea shout, isn't he?
That was one composed finish. Do you know what I loved about it? It's another one worth watching back. If you weren't watching the game live, you might not have seen it. But
I only caught it on replay, so I might not have seen it.
Rudiger appeals for offside. And something in his head.
Against who?
Yeah. He must literally completely panic, because he does this almost like an imaginary card action, but he's looking for like a flag, and you can see him mouthing, "Oh, it's offside." He even tells one of his mates, he's like, "Don't worry, it's offside." What? And then when he realizes the goal is being given, he gets really angry. He's like, "What did you think, mate?" It's just really bad communication. In that case, Rudiger should put it slightly to the side. But listen, whenever you try and play a pass back from that close to your goalkeeper, there is always a chance it can go wrong. And he's normally, interestingly,
Mendy was rushing out as well.
He's normally the type of player, Rudiger, who would just boot it out for a throw in, because it was quite strange. It's worth saying that after that, he put in a couple of really important blocks, Rudiger, and he's a very interesting FPL asset. I know a number of people did buy him in this week. He was a player that I was considering, and I may well have bought, by the way, if but for the announcement of Burnley's doubles.
So I would have price increase this week, James. It's all because of you.
No, it's not because of me. It's because he's 4.5 million. He's starting regularly, and they've had good fixture run, right? Sheffield United and Newcastle.
I mean, yes, they could have ended up with another 6-7 pointer. He would have had 4 returns in a row had he not.
Oh yeah, listen, he could have been looking at bonus potentially as well. At his price, he's someone like Azpilicueta is going to hog the bonus points more, but you can't argue him at his price. He's going to be a threat at set pieces as well, probably the main one now. So, I mean, Rudiger's completely reasonable. The only thing to say about him is beyond Newcastle, he obviously becomes a tougher run of fixtures. Southampton, a double for them would be Manchester United and Liverpool, then Everton, then Leeds. It's a tougher run, certainly defensively anyway. So it's probably a case of it wouldn't be for me. But I guess for people looking to bench boost, someone like Rudiger's got to be ideal at the moment, I would have thought. A certain consideration. I would say even if Thiago Silva was suddenly back next week, Rudiger looks locked for that left-sided centre-half position at the moment. I don't think you've got anything to worry about, which is nothing like the situation for Ben Chilwell and Reece James at the moment. So Reece James looked like he was out for Hudson-Odoi. Reece James has now played the last 2. Ben Chilwell got dropped for 2 for Alonso, came back in last night, but went off after 62 minutes.
Could have given away a penalty as well. Ben Chilwell got lucky with that.
I don't really know what to advise for Chilwell and James owners. I think it's really tough. I think you're probably in a position where you probably play this week, you start them and hope like what you got yesterday is they play. All right, they've not kept a clean sheet, but that's because Rudiger and Mendy's had a bad moment now. And then you sell afterwards. They're not players you're going to want to carry through to a double at the moment. It's going to make you nervous because generally the pair of them might not start at all. I don't know. We have, because of the opponents in the double as well, United and Liverpool, if it happens, we've got nothing to reference off in terms of what Tuchel will do stylistically. We can say at the moment, okay, yeah, he's trying to play a back 3 with wing backs playing really high, which should be beneficial for them. But could he just get to those 2 fixtures and go, nah, we're going back 4 now? Now, the back 4 would probably be really good news for Chilwell. For Reece James, I'm not sure. He's then in competition with Azpilicueta. I can't give you the answer. Ted's rotation FPL is coming on COTC on Thursday to preview the Newcastle game with FPL Footballer, and I'll see what he says. But I think he's to be honest, I expect him to be like that as well. Put his hands up and go, I can't tell you, James, we haven't learned anything. The one thing I have definitely learned is I do not want to buy any of their attacking assets. No interest at all. Vernon was good yesterday. He's obviously provided both goals from an FPL perspective. Brilliant finish from Mason Mount. But I would not be buying any of their attacking players at the moment with the way the fixtures are about to turn. Listen, if you're looking at a free hit in game week 24, by all means, have a look at one. But I think even if I was doing that, I probably wouldn't buy a Chelsea attacker.
Indeed.
Sheffield United, we can skip, unfortunately. Sorry, Blaze.
Enjoy the championship next season, unfortunately, for Sheffield United, because difficult again.
It's the same story with them. They don't get battered. They'll lose to you at the weekend 1-0 or 2-1, mate.
It's maybe. Depends how we perform.
It's the same story every week. You won't batter them 3 or 4-0 or anything, mate.
No, we won't, but they could beat us. I wouldn't surprise me if they
well, there is that, yeah.
James, why don't you tell everybody what else we have this week while I queue up a few Twitter questions. We don't have a game week to preview necessarily because we'll be recording again on Friday, like I mentioned at the start of the show, before game week 24, after the FA Cup, when we have an idea of what's happened with the fixtures and we can go into it with a lot more information. We probably won't have the finalised schedule for 26, 27, 28, but we'll have
a bloody good idea about what it could look like, and we can look at the permutations in any case. Yeah. So that's an important podcast we're going to do on Friday. Once these FA Cup games are finished, we'll do it like an hour long, like a normal podcast. We'll look at kind of what our ideas, plans is. Because me and Suj are kind of in different strategy places at the moment, i.e. Suj has the free hit and I don't, we're probably going to be attacking it from very different perspectives as well. So that's on Friday. Sky, big podcast on Wednesday for the Sky listeners, because it's overhaul period as well. It's essentially a forced wild card. Tuesday and Thursday clash of the correspondents now. Gemma Baggies is my cat playing West Brom Manchester United tomorrow, and rotation FPL footballer Chelsea Newcastle Thursday. I can say next week's clash of the correspondents as well will be Bradley Parker and Andy Martin, FPL tactician. Wolves v Leeds ahead of Leeds' double game week next week as well. That's likely to be next Thursday. Do you want me to do the Patreon pods as well?
Yeah, go for it. If you are not already a patron and you do want to support the show, then patreon.com/Planet FPL is where you can sign up. As James is about to mention, we get an extra podcast every week, Slack channel to interact with our fellow patrons. There's a few hundred people in there, so well worth it. What do we have for them, James?
Q&A today, as most Mondays. Tottenham tomorrow on Tuesday, as me and Suj throw a party after glorious clean sheets against West Brom and Fulham over the weekend. We'll be looking forward to our FA Cup ties and more. Wednesday, I'm doing Ask James for the patrons only this week. That's obviously so we can fit in the strategy podcast for you guys on Friday. Thursday is we're going to do our game week preview on Thursday this week. So just a differential show is on Thursday instead of Friday. And that's so on Friday, we can do Sky extra time for the patrons, and we try and lock in those overhaul teams for Sky Fantasy as well.
Awesome going. Going to be a busy week of content
week,
for everybody. Yeah, it really is. A few questions here, James, that we've had in to wrap up the show. Starting with Amber Redmond. Imagine a COVID-free world where your co-host is given the responsibility of organizing your stag do. How does it go?
Badly.
Disaster. I love stag do's just because they have to just be like the Hangover the movie is exactly how I would want your stag do to end.
Yeah,
James. It'd be a mess.
Mine.
Tigers, yeah. Mike Tyson turning up. Not remembering parts of it, completely blacked out. It would be disastrous, absolutely disastrous. I'd just make it as extreme as possible.
Yeah, one way or the other, should me or Suj get divorced, not from each other, but our wives, it probably would be the end of Planet FPL if we ever got married again. Yeah, that would be the end. That would be the last podcast. Suj or James's stag do, because we'd kill each other. I should imagine.
We wouldn't survive. Yeah, it would not be possible. Now, I'd make sure you stayed alive, but that's the only thing I could guarantee.
Yeah, probably won't look the same though. Mind you, in my case, that might be a good thing.
Rohan Srinivasan, leaving the Foden goal aside, was Ruben Diaz picking up Zinchenko on the floor? The best
that was so good.
He just dragged him along a little bit.
just picked him up and dragged him by his throat.
Yeah, it was quite funny. And it was more a case of like, imagine being given that job, right? To be the guy that lies on the floor. You're basically being told, all right, mate, you've got to take one for the team here. Because if it hits you in the lower back or anywhere around that region, you're basically getting a free punch. It's like lying on the floor and saying, one of us as a group of boys.
I also love the fact.
Smack you. You don't know it's going to happen, and it might not happen, but you are about to get booted.
I also love the fact, and apologies to Zinchenko fanboys out there, but it basically put their least important player in the position as well. So if we're going to lose someone here from a concussion to the back of the head, we're going to lose our worst player, our smallest player.
Yeah,
they just completely got crossed up. Do you know, I've got a quick question for you, Suj. Do you know how old Ruben Diaz is?
He's young, 22, 23, something
He's
like that.
23, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, mistake on the goal yesterday. Whatever you think about how easy Salah does or doesn't go down. To be honest, his wife must love him. He can't put his arm back like that after the mistake. It's fatal. But he'll learn from it, though. He has been absolutely brilliant for them.
Effid_PL. How quickly should we be getting Kane in? You think still wait till game week 26, basically, for you?
I can't see the justification to do it beforehand. I mean, if you're still sitting there and you've got, great, you're not binning. Same with obviously Sonny. You can make a choice whether you're benching this week or whatever you're doing with it. It's 26, isn't it? And it depends what 26 is. There's every chance, if the double in 26 is Burnley at home and Villa away, there's every chance I won't bother with Tottenham at all. Possibly.
Wow.
But I think if it's Burnley and Southampton, like I said, that's the most attractive one. It won't look like it, having thought about it more. You think, oh, it's more Burnley, Fulham. But having thought about it more, Burnley, Southampton is probably the most attractive in terms of a possible double. I think if that's the case, he'll get the TC chip in 26 for me.
And I'm going to give the last question of the show to Stephen Barnes, FPL Stephen Barnes, James. This is one for you. It's an A or B. You have the choice. You can be back watching Spurs in the stadium next season, but Jose is still in charge. Or COVID continues. We have to play behind closed doors, but you can choose any manager you want.
I can't choose COVID continuing, can I?
Well, okay, football is behind closed doors still.
Fine, sack him. Give me a different manager. I'll
watch it on telly.
I'll go back in 2022 or 2023. Yeah.
Yeah. You in a slightly better mood though after yesterday, or did you just do what you were supposed to?
We won a game of football, but there's nothing. What do you want me to do? Jump hoops because we beat West Brom at home?
It's
I mean, it's expected. Listen, to be honest, credit to Tottenham yesterday because Man City drew at home to them, Liverpool drew at home to them, United beaten 1-0 with a disputed penalty. So it's a fixture that can go wrong. And sitting there at half time, 0-0, and Spurs tweeting out, we've had more of the ball. I'm like, wow, this is a fucking party. We're actually trying to pass the thing to each other. I'm already happy. The game was won routinely. And so from that perspective, you're on a hide into nothing in those games. And I accept that. The game was won routinely. I didn't, because of Everton Wednesday and City again on Saturday, I don't sit there in a position and think, oh, go and batter them 4 or 5-0. I understand at that point, kill the game. There's another game that's more important, to be honest, because the league season's finished for us. There's a more important game on Wednesday to go and win. So I accept that. Was yesterday great? No. Was it better? Yes. It's that the game yesterday is what that game should be in the situation. That's it. It's not to celebrate. Beat West Brom at home. No. Put the rattle away.
Indeed. FA Cup this week to maybe change of competition and change of mood. I hope you all had a much better game week 23 than I did, and your arrows were green, listeners. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to the podcast. Friday will be a big one to help plan strategy for the next 5 game weeks. Other than that, thank you for joining us. Stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. No early transfers. Cue music, please, man child.